If you're listening to this, you found a transmission from the bunker codes. None of this is medical, dental, vision, legal, financial, or any other advice about anything. We're all on the same team and just want to be left alone. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk, and you're gonna listen. And so get comfy. This is probably going to be a shorter one, unless it's not. And before we get into the show today, we have a sponsor. Actually, we have three sponsors. So, as you know, the end of the world is coming, and so why do anything about it when you can just do absolutely nothing because it's the end of the world, and instead play Raid Shadow Legends, because nothing says getting prepared for the end of the world like doing absolutely nothing about it and spending your money in a shit game that will not work when the internet's down. So use my discount code and piss your money away like an idiot, because it's the end of the world. And so there you go. Our second sponsor today, if you can't afford food because of inflation and you've all lost your jobs because you work in fast food or at clothing stores, I suggest instead of buying food, just buy gold, because you won't be able to pay your landlords soon anyway, and the banks will probably still accept gold because banks like gold, right? So if you wanna keep your house before everything turns into digital currency, buy gold using my discount code, because discount codes work for gold. It's pretty cool. And last but not least, if you're going to be running around in the apocalypse and you won't be able to afford clothes, make sure that you are properly manscaped, or now womanscaped, and make sure that you have a nice trimmed set of balls, because you won't be able to afford clothes. So you may as well use my discount code to buy some matching his and hers razors, so you can be matching naked people, because you won't be able to afford clothes, because you'll have spent all your money on gold and Raid Shadow Legends. So those are our three new sponsors, and we appreciate them. And okay, that was a test to see if you'd fall for it. Nobody's ever going to sponsor my show, and none of this is financial advice, so you should never do anything that I say. And okay, so welcome back to another episode of Balls. Oh yeah, this is filmed in front of a live studio audience, and this is going to be a shorter-ish one. There's one. I have one big topic planned, and then two kind of smaller topics planned. So I don't know. Roll the dice. Do we talk about crypto really quick? So there's tons and tons and tons and tons of crypto scams going on. Raid Shadow Razors, dude. There's like the crossover of a lifetime. If Raid Shadow Legends if you could manscaping your characters, and women's have a well manscaped orc or whatever. I don't know. So there's a lot of crypto rug pulls going on. There's like some long ones and some short ones, and people that are stupid enough to get rug pulled aren't going to listen, and then people who are smart enough sit back and watch them like everybody else. So if one of you or any of you for some reason are new to crypto, I guess this is a PSA. My recommendation is to find crypto that's interesting to you, that seems like it does something that might actually be interesting to you someday. That way, if it doesn't do good or bad, you can feel like you're sticking with it without feeling like you got rug pull just because it goes up or down. And beware of coins that don't do anything. Beware of pretty much any coin that's on ERC20. Yeah. And if it looks like a pyramid scheme, like if its sole purpose is to just generate, and some of them, they're literally like, you read up on them, go read up on them, and it's like, oh, it just funnels money to the top. Those are called pyramid schemes. Don't do those. They will zero out, or the fees will be too high. Yeah, the fees will be too high to move, which is another giant red flag. If they're really low to move around, then you're not gonna feel bad. So I will just for 1 second here. I watched a meme coin that has been around since the beginning lose 50% of its value today. I went to sleep, and I'm like, that's a pretty big number, and it went from 10 cents to 5 cents, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have thousands and thousands of dollars, or tens of thousands of dollars, like some people do in crypto, your money just got cut in half. And you might go, "OMG, this is the end of the world. Oh Lord." But in reality, like, if you're invested in this coin and you believe in this coin, and all your buddies are gonna stick with this coin, and it has something that it actually does, that just means it's on sale, and it's weakness leaving the system. So when people are trying to get you to buy into something, and they're trying to get you to buy into the hype and go, and the time is now because you can get super rich, don't forget to zoom out, because the graphs look amazing when you're all zoomed in, and then you zoom out and you could be at the top when it's about to crash, or you could be at the bottom. And so, yeah, this crypto's been at $1.30, and now it's down to 5 cents, but it still has a dedicated community. And so, oh wow, the triple. Thank you. I hope you're having a fantastic night and hanging in there, and I appreciate you. And you're my buddy. And I don't have a good sticker for you, but you're my buddy. I want you to know that. And I hope you're doing okay. Here we go. Go ninja, go ninja, go ninja. So anyway, yeah. Go ahead and invest in a meme coin, but make sure that it's actually going to do something, or that it actually has adoption. Don't just listen to morons saying this might have adoption someday. And if you think something's a rug pull, just ask somebody that's. Yes, I know you hate everything. I don't know what's going on, but oh, that is a funny one. I know you hate everything, but yeah. Part 2 of this, your participation ribbon, that is pretty cool. Hey, it's like pretty scary to participate in things. And I think that's what I want to talk about next is, like, oh yeah, hide the pain. So telling people what's bugging you, telling people where it hurts, is very scary for a lot of reasons. In all likelihood, they're not going to understand at all. And in fact, when you're starting to learn, like, how to deal with pain and trauma, the first thing they tell you is to not say that you understand what they're going through, because you don't. But there's kind of like a more what's the word? There's like a darker, not a nihilistic, I can't think of the right words. I'm kind of stumbling right now. But there's like a darker side to people knowing what's hurting you, because that kind of shows that you've got weaknesses in your armor that they can exploit. And a couple examples of those is like, I never have told anybody like what actually annoys me, because whether consciously or subconsciously, they'll probably start doing it all the time. And so an example of like a solution for that is to go tell people that something annoys you that doesn't annoy you. That way you can act annoyed and just play it off, instead of having to play off something that really does annoy you, which is like 10 million times harder. Another thing, don't ever say that like you never get flustered, or you never get upset, or you never get mad, or you're really smart. Don't ever say those things, because people will just take that as an opportunity. Oh. And I think when it comes to just any sort of like mental health at all, or literally anything that's bugging the person, and I don't care if it's like doctors or coworkers, like I remember this doctor, and I was telling them that like I needed like the hour and a half long drive on the way in. He'll say ETH a lot. Yeah, I know. That it doesn't matter if I tell him if that annoys me or not. He thinks that's hilarious. Like, so let's use like a very generic example that I think everybody understands. There's apparently some very, very small minority that actually likes sitting in traffic. Let's pretend it's like half of 1% of the population, right? So, and they're trying to make everybody come back to work. So they will fixate on this like 0.5 of like 1% of people that like sitting in traffic. Nobody ever asks them how long they actually sit in traffic. Nobody asks them how long they, how far away from work they are. A lot of these people don't even know what traffic is. They live 5 minutes from work, and they just like to get in their car and drive for a few minutes, even though this is America and nothing stops them from driving around pretty much whenever they want. As long as you're not trying to drive through street races, everybody, okay, remember, don't let your boomers drive through street races. They'll get shot and killed and beat up. Okay? Don't do that. But the rest of the time, between let's say 7 a.m. to like 4 p.m., they can go out and do their grocery shopping and stuff, and they'll be fine. Nobody's telling them they can't drive around. So during their hours, their designated hours to drive around. So why would you let 0.5 of 1% of people dictate the other 99.9% that do not in any capacity want to get stuck in traffic? They either actually have somewhere to go, or they just don't want to be on the road at all. Like ambulances and service trucks and doctors. Well, it is so stupid, right? So what'll happen is you go tell your doctor, you're like, hey, for some reason, being stuck in traffic for an hour and a half each direction every day is really wearing me down. Oh, we should do something about that. What do you think we should do about that? I should stop going into the office because wasting 3 hours of my day and having to get up early is stupid. And it's wearing me out. And it's mentally and physically exhausting. Do you think you'd think as a doctor, they'd be like, oh cool, I'll write you a doctor's note or something and say, hey, let's try to get you on a flexible schedule or less hours. Like, it's your doctor, right? It's your doctor. They should be medically knowing exactly what to do for you, right? And then let's pretend they even write a doctor's note. Let's pretend they even write a doctor's note for you. And you try to bring it in. Nobody's going to look at it. They won't look at it. They can't look at it. They'll hand it to HR. HR is going to look at it and they're going to go, no, we can't make reasonable accommodations for you. Even though they talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they don't actually, care about you at all. Now you have just given them a potential weakness that they can and will exploit against you. And they might say, oh, they can't do that, or they can't retaliate, they can't do this, they can't. If you're at will, they absolutely can. They can fire you for anything. At any time. It doesn't even matter if you have a contract unless you have some kind of clause, then they'll just be finding a way to get out of it. So, what value is there in you telling people, like doing those surveys, that you're burnt out? It sounds like a lawsuit, but it's really not, because if you're at will, it doesn't matter. You can't sue them. You just have to just suck it up. Like, employees don't have rights anymore, and doctors are nothing but pill pushers. So if you get anxiety attacks, a doctor is not going to help put you in a situation where you're not going to have anxiety attacks anymore. Even though that's the most logical solution. Is the doctor should be like, oh shit, okay. These cities are causing a lot of people anxiety, and we're doctors, and we're going to be honest, and we're going to follow the science, and we're going to say that cities are giving people anxiety. So the doctors are going to form a big doctor. The small doctors are going to turn into a big doctor robot, and we're going to say, hey, the science is saying that traffic and the cities, even thinking about going into a city, is giving people physically crippling amounts of anxiety. Not that they're like agoraphobic or whatever. We can talk to them about the city and their heart rate goes up. They think about going to the city and their temperature goes up multiple degrees, and they start having anxiety attacks that they can't control, that have nothing to actually do with felt anxiety. Doctors could do this. They are doctors. They are medical doctors. They could do this. They could tell these corporations to just the soyance and the droplets. They could tell, you know what? You're going to lose all your buildings. Do you care about your people, or do you care about your buildings and the banks and your taxes? Right? Or people could go, hey, okay, so why would you bother telling your doctor that? They're just going to pop you some pills and tell you to go back in the office and shut up, because they're all on the same damn team. They don't give a shit about you at all. They don't give a shit about your mental health at all. Zero. Zero, zero, zero. And if you tell your work, zero. Because A, they don't care, and they want robots. Which is funny, because they'll happily replace one person that's productive with 10 people that are unproductive, as long as they don't complain. Even if they're completely useless and they have like a kindergarten level understanding of how anything works, even though they're in their 50s and 60s. And everybody's doing their work for them. And you have one person in the office doing 5 or 10 people's worth of work every day. They will happily burn that person out, and they will use their loyalty against them, and they do not care about that person's mental health at all. But they'll check a box and have a mental health class and a mental health phone number, and they'll have burnout surveys, but they're not going to do shit about it. You might have a boss that has some leverage to put you on something that's a little less stressful and lets you unwind a little bit, but the reality is that most jobs don't have anything like that, because you're there to meet a number, and if you can't meet that number, then why do they have you? And we want butts in chairs, and do your job, or we'll find someone else who can. And pretty soon there's going to be 1 billion people looking for work. And they will remind you of that every day, and they will tell you every day how thankful you should be that you even have a job, because in 2008, 2009, 2010, if you said anything, their response was, you should be happy you have a job. You should be happy you have a job. I heard that from full-timers who, by the way, were going to be there for life no matter what, even though I was a contractor and knew I could get let go if a butterfly farted in the wind. They let me know that every day, be happy you have a job, which is like the equivalent of saying eat an apple or do a push-up or drink some water, which I should be doing. So, read Shadow Legends. And so why would you tell them that you're doing bad? Why would you tell them that you're hurting? Why would you tell them that you have anxiety attacks and that you can't sleep and that you cry yourself to sleep curled up in a shaking ball as your heart races every night, and that you wake up every 15 minutes and you are sleep deprived for months and months and months and months, and that you can't enjoy the sunshine because it looks like you're staring at everything through a dull dead box, and your soul feels dead and your eyes feel hollow and you don't feel anything anymore? Why, hypothetically, why would you tell them that? The next time someone says eat an apple, I'm gonna be like, can I have $10 so I can go buy one? The sad thing is like, one of my coworkers was giving out applesauce the other day, and I really wanted the applesauce, but I also just wanted them to give it to somebody else that probably needed or wanted it even more than me. And we as a society are just not empathetic enough to be able to digest like the dead black souls that we are developing, like the nihilism, the black pills, like whatever you want to call it, like this like neo-goth society that basically we're turning into, where a lot of us haven't felt the anxiety that we felt since we were abused as children, whether in high school or our homes or wherever. Like, whatever is coming, I would argue that our generation is conditioned for this, and it's like putting on an old pair of shoes. Like, just feeling just dead inside. Hypothetically. This is second nature. It's like, oh. And my favorite meme is the one with, oh, I always forget his dang name. the guy that played in the Spider-Man movie, and he's got it's from some other movie though, and he's got his noose over his head, and he turns and looks at the guy, and he's like, "First time?" I always forget the name of the dang meme. But dang it. Everybody already knows. Everybody already knows what it means, but yeah, he's like, first time. James Franco, that's right, thank you. So, that's like, not Toby, no. Tobey Maguire, he doesn't, he's like the crying meme. Chat says, for me, it's worse than expectations. Feeling all the hope going away. That was worse than what I expected it to get worse. That is exactly how I feel. I wrote all these books. I knew it was going to get bad. I was a little conservative because I knew reality was going to be way worse than anything that I could ever write. But like, how bad it's consistently been, increasingly, progressively worse. I did not account for how bad it was going to get. And every couple episodes I like to like reflect on how close I got. I didn't know how it was going to happen, right? I originally thought that like the cities were each going to have their own kind of giant private army, and each one was going to sort of like work itself out into factions, and they were going to like parse the cities up. And that really hasn't happened. And I don't know why it hasn't happened. In some cases, I honestly think in some cities, the gang violence got so bad that the more moderate, and I say moderate in air quotes, it's like the difference between Taliban and the ISIS, you know, difference between a drug gang and like a drug cart like Sinaloa, like you wonder, like, if you take, you know, a low-level street gang and put it against a bigger street gang, but then you put it against, like, the Sinaloa cartel, like, you realize that there's, like, insane, increasing ranges of violence, or, like, MS-13, I guess, if you want, like, depending on who you're familiar with, or, like, there's, like, a bunch of really bad ones. 2008, I thought things would only get worse until shit magically gradually got better. In 2017, I thought we finally made it. Yeah, those are those false, I call them like false valleys. I don't know what to call them. It's kind of like a reverse. And that lasted all of a year or two. It's so weird because it's so hard to believe that 2020 was like this really bizarre, weird watershed moment for houses. Like, I still haven't wrapped my brain around that. And we had a bankruptcy, and we just weren't in a great spot. And then in 2020, there was this weird watershed, and it's just been down ever since. There was this scramble to buy houses, and there was just metric shit tons of them on the market, and then everybody moved. Oh, this is a fantastic segue to our sponsor. Don't forget, in the apocalypse, when you can't afford clothes, to keep your balls properly manscaped, because you won't be able to afford clothes. And okay, so this is the next This is the next segment of the show where everything comes together because I'm doing really good at coalescing all these topics, just like my books. All right, spoiler alert. Since you're hearing this, ironically, right after I said, I'm doing such a good job at coalescing all of this together. I did not do a good job of coalescing this all together. So what you're hearing is a re-recorded part 2, where I try to actually coalesce all of my ideas together in some sort of a coherent stream of consciousness thought, which is basically what this is. It's not scripted. I just have a few bullet points and do my best to coalesce it all together, and I think I do much better the second time. So here we go, part 2, and don't forget to use my discount code to buy a new house. Just kidding. This is the future, and you can't own houses anymore because you can't own anything anymore. So your discount code is worthless. Go buy a pair of... I don't even know. Go buy a pair of nothing because there's nothing. Alright, back to part 2 of the show. Alright, so this is part 2 of whatever episode. I'm editing the last episode at some point where it went off the rails and I just devolve into like a muddling mess. So there's kind of a couple intertwining thoughts that I had that it was really hard for me to navigate, because I was trying to deal with I'm going to try to not struggle with the words as much tonight. The middle class coupled with everybody wanting more money, but for different reasons than before. The entitlement has gone away, but the demand is still there. So, and I was using teachers as an example because they keep wanting to feed schools money. But my argument was that teachers' main goal, which is indoctrination, can be more effectively implemented with AIs, but also that'll lay the teachers off, and you could get rid of all your useless tenured professors. You could get rid of all the liberal arts schools, and then they could subsidize the education somehow. They could have AIs do it. You don't have to pay the teachers anymore. And they could say, we need to modernize. We need to move to AIs. And essentially the teachers were useful idiots, and they worked themselves out of a job, and they can fast track the indoctrination of children. And I was trying to contrast that with the ever-increasing amount of layoffs that are going to happen. So we've already seen fast food restaurant layoffs, tech layoffs, and clothing store layoffs like crazy. So teachers are one of the next easily replaceable. And then you have like some parts of tech that aren't replaceable. And you have the right to repair blocking people from repairing their own stuff still, so you're still going to need techs in some cases. Nurses, doctors, a lot of that is somewhat being replaced by AI, but not much. So teachers want increasing money. Everyone wants to keep funneling more taxes to schools. But AI is cheaper and it's more easily reproducible. And as much as I hate to admit it, because the indoctrination aspects are terrible, AIs could probably much easier re-explain things to kids over and over again until they could understand it. And you could have AIs running chats and forum posts and stuff all day and all night, 24 hours a day, whereas teachers would largely get burnt out. But you might think, yeah, but don't they need all the schools? I mean, they could shut everything down again and move to AI learning. But you're right though, like those schools are worth a lot of money. And they do want to centralize everybody into the cities. And so maybe if they centralize everybody into the cities, into 15-minute cities or whatever, maybe they could change a lot of that. Some of that commercial real estate to, like, I don't know, re-education camps filled with AI. I don't know. And I was trying to contrast these mass layoffs with, like, what I really feel is like a colonization happening where people are being forced out of their own states by a 1-2 punch of a 1-2-3 punch. You have the homeless, situation. You have, which is largely a drug problem and a theft problem, which is just speeding up, stores closing down. And you have, the fentanyl. There was pictures from Seattle earlier of just streets in every direction of people doing fentanyl, just like right in front of cops, basically. So, ring goes on one. So, the homeless, violence, drugs, meth, crack situations out of control. But then you also have, like, the criminals being let out, and then anybody tries to defend themselves is getting arrested for murder. And so essentially and then you have the Richie Riches that are gentrifying everything and chasing everybody out, which started in the cities and then moved to the suburbs and then moved to the rural areas, and now it's moving across into Central America, Central United States of America. So you have this massive three-pronged colonization happening, all the while they're trying to force everybody back in the office where there's no infrastructure to support people going back in the office. A lot of the parking garages are totally lawless. Most of the shops are shut down. The shops that are still open, every single one of them has security, which is constantly under threat of their own life. And if they defend themselves, they're going to jail anyway. And then they're going to get doxxed and so on and so forth. So you have essentially a completely lawless city. Not to mention people that want to jump off bridges that just end up shutting the bridges down for hours because the mental health situation doesn't exist. They want everyone to drive through all of this. Driving through cities with piles of garbage in the road. Driving through the suburbs with garbage cans full of garbage in the road. In the middle of the road. And I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop and get out there and get it. It could be an ambush. Why would I stop and get out and I don't run around with like garbage safety moving equipment. This is the second time now in just a couple weeks that in the middle of the road has been a whole pile, a whole garbage can, and there's no houses nearby. A whole garbage can of garbage dumped in the road. And then a couple weeks ago, under one of the overpasses, there must have been like 5 garbage cans worth of garbage dumped all over the sidewalk and all over the underpass and on the side of the road. I don't know why they're doing this, but it's just going to drive people further and further away. But meanwhile, the cities are trying to force everybody to come back to work. And it just feels like maybe it doesn't even, I don't know if colonization, I don't know exactly like what the right word is, but it's definitely like displacement. We're definitely being displaced. And I grew up here, and I don't think that's right. I think if people want to leave, and if they're comfortable with leaving and they don't feel like they have roots somewhere, if they're only buying like one house, and that's the house that they're going to live, and that's going to be their address, and that's where they're registering their vehicles, that's not a luxury. They're moving houses. That should be fine. Once you start buying a second, third, and fourth house, those should be considered luxuries. And I don't think that should be allowed, as long as there's other people that are still trying to buy houses in those areas. I think the house should have to be up for like a certain amount of time, so people that are local can buy those houses. And I think if the cities can have tents and tent cities and tent forts and wrecked RVs everywhere, I think that in the rural areas, you should be able to get a plot of land and a tiny house. And I don't think it should cost $550,000 to get a plot of land and put a tiny house on it and get internet and water and sewer and a couple solar panels and a couple batteries. Like, that shouldn't be insane. But right now, you're looking at like $550,000 to do that. Meanwhile, everybody nearby is getting like foreclosed on, or they can't afford to move because the interest rates are too high, which, if I can understand correctly, that's what happened in Idaho, where all the Californians moved up there, then they couldn't afford to leave because they bought in at low interest rates. And then, so then they got stuck there. And so I think there's a big housing crash coming, but I think there's going to be a big commercial crash first. And I think there's going to be mass layoffs. I think there already has been mass layoffs, and they finally did admit that unemployment went up last week. And I think there's like at least 2 more banks that are going to crash just in the next week or two. So bike. Yeah, so I was joking at the beginning. It was kind of like a little skit that I did. If you can't afford food, don't buy gold. Don't buy shitty mobile games that you won't be able to use when the economy and the cell is down and the games can just shut down. don't buy gold if you can't buy food, and ways to purify water. Cut every single subscription service that you can. Or if you're into the TV subscription services, just try to keep one. And trim down your smartphones if you can. Maybe just keep like one smartphone per family in case you actually need it for something. They're going to be switching to digital SIMs, this next generation of phones, and you're going to be really, really sorry when you actually can be tracked everywhere and they can't shut it off. And you can't switch phone providers anymore. And they will be able to track everything you do, and they will be able to 100% control your phone. And all the tinfoil hat stuff that they mock us for will happen. And so this is kind of like a much, much, much shorter version. I kind of lost like my focus a bit last night. And so I was trying to think of like better ways to say all this. And they shouldn't be able to force us to drive into the cities where there's no infrastructure anymore. If they want us to go back to the cities, they need to do the work first. They need to clean up the streets first. They need to bring the stores back first. There needs to be food there first. Don't make us go back with the promise that everything's going to return back to normal, because it's not. The second we go back, it's going to be total chaos. There's going to be riots, and there's going to be looting, and there's going to be attacks. And yeah, sure, like, people can walk their dogs sometimes. And people can go out to the park sometimes. But there are neighborhoods in the city where there was one where they just like clocked their like 4th murder in just a couple weeks. Like, there's completely lawless parts of the city for the gangs, and then there's other parts that are just completely lawless for the drugs. Like, just fentanyl everywhere. And then the people freaking out on other drugs. And it's just like, they don't want you to be able to defend yourself. You can't defend yourself anyway. They're going after the street racers now. I guess because it's convenient. Even though they let them street race for years. And you might say, oh, Chance, I thought you wanted them to stop the street racing. Like, here's the problem. They don't have the staff or the firepower to go after these block lockdowns. They don't. They need to bring in the National Guard if they want it, because they're going to need like 1,000 people to break up one of these block lockdowns that they have. They're not going to do that. The governor and the mayor aren't going to do that because the optics would be horrible, which is ironic. Everyone would probably be cheering, but they would go, our lives more important than property, because they're still using that argument. Oh, is acting crazy? Does acting crazy now give you like the death sentence? Well, no, but they always say, why didn't somebody do something? Why doesn't somebody do something? It's like, well, because if you wait till it's too late, it's too late. And the more you force people back in the city, the more poor choices they have. And a lot of people are already choosing to not go back. And there's no carrot on a stick. You're going to threaten to fire them? What? They've already made up their mind that they're not going back. And so unemployment's going to be even higher. Everybody else is going to be more stressed out. mental health situation is going to keep getting worse. They're going to keep getting less taxes. There's going to be less people in the buildings. It's going to be a slippery slope. They're going to shut it all down, and then all the commercial real estate's going to crash all at the same time. And my thought is that they could try to sell it back as like digital currency, like promissory notes for like futures of like digital currency, because it's not done yet. And then that'll be the next crash. But I think after commercial real estate crashes, I think houses are going to crash, and I think everyone's going to have to move in with friends. And people are going to either have to move into the city, or they're going to move into the rural areas. And the suburban areas are going to be kind of like the DMZ, which is basically what they are now. If you live in a suburban area, you're basically part of the DMZ. And that's why I say show after show after show, people need to be prepared to have measured responses if you want to be left alone. And if your little town, if your little group of houses wants to be left alone, you're going to have to make those decisions. And if you move out into the rural areas, you should try to be a part of the culture. Don't inject your failed culture into the new culture that you're moving into. And don't do anything crazy, and don't listen to crazy people. And if they want to make you drive to work and you trip check, and there's been people trying to talk down a jumper from the bridge for 3 hours, and you trip check and there's no other way to work, then you're not going to work. But you need to be smart about it. And that's exactly what happened last night. They were talking down a gal for 3 hours, and it locked up both lanes of traffic. And those are the conditions that they want you to drive to work through. Or they tell you that you shouldn't live out there. Which means they now have the right to tell you where you are and aren't going to live as society breaks further and further and further down. They want you to take mass transit, which is like a war zone, walk through the streets of people ODing or having meth fits. And yeah, sometimes you can look out there and it looks beautiful. And you see somebody walking their dog. Every time that person does that, though, they're risking their life. And it is not an insignificant risk. And the last thing I wanted to say, I joke about sponsorships because I think it's silly with YouTubers that say it's the end of the world and then to buy their silly things. And then I feel silly for saying, I wrote a book. I want to sell some coffee mugs. And check out my donation page. The reality though is, even though that sounds silly and like I'm being a hypocrite, really what I want the message to be is that if you're a YouTuber with sponsors, or if you have a community, also consider helping other YouTubers. And a lot of YouTubers do that, and a lot of YouTubers don't. And if you do, I'm obviously not talking about you. So the other thing I wanted to say is that I think it's great that YouTubers are taking time off to work on their own health and to work on their own preps. There are almost every YouTuber I watch that's a prepper channel, they all do it. And to me, that makes them legitimate. I can think of 4, like off the top of my head, that have all stopped their channel several times to go work on preps. Even though they could be making more money doing YouTube, I respect that. Actually, I can think of even more. all of you, I want you to know that I respect all of you. That's why you all get shout-outs in my books. For the rest, though, that are trying to sell gold, not because they believe in gold, but just because it makes money, or the Raid Shadow Legends, or what was the Raycon earbud thing? No, those are garbage. Like, those are junk. It's the end of the world. You don't need Raycons. Like, there are extremely affordable, decent, robust, very, very, very affordable headphones from a myriad of manufacturers that'll last years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Any company that has money for that much advertising, VPNs are the other one. You can go get VPNs, like a really, really good VPN that legitimately works, extremely affordably, but they don't advertise because they don't need to. The VPNs that advertise already have like way too much money because the profit margins are insane. If you need a VPN, if you legitimately need one, just ask around and people will tell you what the really, really good legit VPNs are. So, I'm never going to make any money from YouTube ad revenue. I'm never going to have any sponsors. I believe in all of us sponsoring each other, and that's why I talk up other YouTubers. And so I want to give a shout out to some YouTubers who have been totally killing it lately. Vision Preparedness, Prepper's Bunker Outdoors, Steve Wallace, obviously, North Curl Hobbies, Warrior Poet Society, obviously, Alaska Prepper, obviously, IV88, the folks trying to keep James Yeager's channel going, Hard to Hurt, which is kind of a prepper channel, Survival Living, if I didn't already say that, and then obviously like Southern Prepper 1. And then PSR, which is one of my new favorite channels. One of my new old favorite channels. It's important to me, like, they all support other channels, and they walk the walk. They don't rep stupid shit. And of course Marf and Dex. They rep products that are actually going to be useful. And I know I don't have a lot of cool stuff like that. You know, the closest thing I have is my book. And we're going to make little knickknacks and coffee mugs, and I'm going to get a 3D printer and try to print some neat things, and I'm going to try to make a card game and stuff that'll be a little bit of a learning game, but I have a tool maker that I want to do that's made me a prototype tool. I want to have like my own tool designs and stuff, and I'll get there. And someday I'll have my own store and things. Like, we're really working on that, but I have to get a house first. But I want to say, like, if you're going to buy gold, it should be like the last thing that you buy. Because you need food, water, shelter, bandages, bullets, beans. You know, you need to be able to take care of your family. You need to be able to repair stuff. You need tools. You need materials. If you can't repair your tractor because it's got some kind of electronic BS on it, all the gold in the world is not going to work. If the only tractors you can buy with your gold have like right to repair lockouts and you need digital currency to pay the person, you're not going to be able to pay off your house with gold. Because I guarantee you some bank somewhere will still be working unless the bank has some way of turning gold into the digital currency that you're going to need to keep paying for your house. Even during the Great Depression, people still had to pay That's 1775. That's money didn't even exist here yet, and people still had to pay. So I want you to be smart about your subscriptions, smart about the things that you buy, smart about the YouTubers that you support. And if you're another YouTuber that's listening to this and I don't know you, just reach out. I try really, really hard to support other YouTubers. The back of my bunker book and collector's edition bunker book are just pages and pages and pages of YouTubers. And so yeah, I check out my bunker book. I worked really hard on it. I have apocalypse fiction series. I didn't write them to make money. I wrote them to try to help people. The money just offsets the cost. So that's why they're not like insanely priced, except for the collector's edition bunker book, but that's like a luxury thing. So I don't know. I hate to feel like I have to justify myself, but I think it's important. Like, I think it's important, and I think every other YouTuber does this too, the good ones. They explain why they support who they support. And I want to support other YouTubers with their projects, and watching Survival Living's new cabin sort of a deal come to fruition has been a real joy. It's been a real treat, and it brings a lot of hope. So, and one of the YouTubers I watch, I like kind of what he says, like, if you found this video useful, share it or whatever. And that's kind of like, if you find these podcasts useful or whatever, check out my Ko-fi page, check out my books. You might really like them. You might be a reader, or you might know someone who's a reader. And I support a lot of other independent writers too. There's a whole giant group of them on Gab, and here in another month or so, we're going to be having another 99-cent or free book giveaway, and that's something that I participate in, and everybody gets to sell books for 99 cents or free, and it's a total blast. And so I think it's important that we all support each other, because they're essentially going to be trying to herd us into cities where we'll never be able to get out again. We won't be able to own anything. And we have to be able to see this for what it is and not get stuck in their traps and not work against each other. Because if we work against each other, those are just more like force multipliers. So you didn't miss anything with the parts of the later part of the podcast that I cut out. It was really rambly because I was having a super hard time getting my thoughts out. This, I think, covers it way, way better. So I appreciate you all, and hang in there. And if you have any more topics, I think like a lot more crypto stuff. I think people are interested in a lot more crypto stuff. So let me know down in the comments, and I appreciate y'all, and talk to you later, and buy my books and check out my Ko-fi page, and look forward to some coffee mugs soon with my little characters on them. Bye-bye.
This is the end of the Bunker Codes transmission. Please tune in again. Stay kind to each other. We're all on the same team. 73s. Bunker Code clear.